And we were discussing the reasons why. Is that something that you experienced as well for the French translation?
On my end, it's the first time I translate a book, so I have no experience whatsoever, and it takes me an hour a page, roughly.
Yeah. Okay.
For a first cut.
I didn't have any experience either, but I was just the impression when I started to work on it. I was feeling that this should go faster, and I didn't really know why.
How long does it take you?
I didn't measure really, but yes, an hour per page sounds familiar. Yeah, I think that's more or less my speed. Yeah.
I guess I really took it like an agile project. I just started, and then I started to measure, and I just see if my iterations are getting better as I'm going through.
Yeah. That's the same with me. It's just that I had the impression that this is slower than I had expected. Not a problem, just an observation.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to mention is that if you guys want to add people to your team, you're welcome to add. Or there was an idea, I can't remember from which team it was, but there weren't enough translators, there weren't enough volunteers for one particular language, and one guy said, what if I take it on and I subcontract out to a group of people that I meet on Elance or Odesk, and would that be okay? And Jürgen was like, sure, that seems fine. So it's up to each individual team how you want to go about it. Jürgen?
Yeah, I said, well, I also thought about why not subcontract, but of course at the end you have to deliver something that's in one kind of shape and really expresses that what Jürgen to tell the people. So I think it's I wonder how it turns out at the end when we the German team, when we now started to translate different sections. When at the end we bring things together and we review the translations of the others, I think there will be some kind of findings and interesting things that might come up. And that's maybe one thing that we started to address in our team, that we should have some kind of common rules, common ideas, common understandings how to translate different things. And this
how did you start to address that?
How we started that?
How did you start to address it?
We have a regular hangout once a week. We have started a list of questions. We have started a kind of wiki. So that's how we start to address. And what I haven't told the others yet, last weekend I started to translate the courseware for the one-day course, and I actually finished it. And I think this is also kind of a basis that you have to align with the translations of the book, because you have wordings like how to translate the motivators, for example, or how to translate so you have to find out what the real common translation rules and translation understandings of specific terms are. That you have to align.
So would you say you started with the definitions then of particular words and then made sure that people were in alignment on those, or?
We started actually a list where when somebody comes up with a question or with an idea how to translate a specific term, we put it in the list and we share this kind of list and we develop that. And we have a kind of a, let's say, a work process, like put something in there and you have a kind of a process at the end to agree with. And in the middle, you have a kind of process step like, this is my approach or this is my proposal. We have to discuss that.
How is the French team doing that? How are you coordinating?
The French team is not coordinating at all at the moment. I'm not sure everybody has started yet. I think we need to start that. But so far, I just wanted to gain experience on the work. And also, I don't recall there is a deadline for the work, so I'm starting to move forward. For me, the journey is the reward anyways. So the fact to do it is my reward. So I don't really want to subcontract some of it, even if it takes longer. I'm just thinking, we just go through it, and when it's finished, it's finished.
Yeah, and indeed, there is no deadline. Each team is setting their own deadline. I know that it will also, when the book is published, we'll need to have an actual publisher who's going to publish the book. So that's a whole journey in and of itself. I know for Germany, there is a publisher that's approached Jürgen about wanting to publish it. So it looks like there's a publisher for Germany. I don't expect France would be a problem either. There will be a publisher in France. It's some other countries that, like Romania, is a little bit harder. So just some other countries are a little bit harder. But Germany, for sure, there's a publisher. And, we don't know. It's the beginning of the conversation. So, yeah, there's no deadline is really what we're going back to.
How big is the French team? I remember before I went on holiday, there had been a couple of emails posted to the translation list that were apparently just covering the French team. And I had the impression that you are really active.
Well, then it kind of stopped, I think. I think September came around and everybody started to go back to work, and I think we're just trying to figure out how to make time for this. Each one on our side. So.
Yeah, there are 6 people on the French team, and that is one person bigger than most teams. But they chose to have the 6 members on their team. So most of their teams are 5 members, and there's a couple of the Romanian, the Russian, and the Spanish team all have 2 members. So they have a lot of work ahead of them, unless we can find more people.
So Lisette, what I did, I don't remember if you received my email, but I think a couple of weeks back or 3 weeks back, I had set up like a document on the Google Drive, and I called it Translation Tools and Techniques, and I started to put stuff in. And I was thinking we could all have put stuff in because there is no reason why we would have different ways of doing it. For example, I think it's very interesting to know that it takes you 1 hour page roughly, so I don't feel stupid about, or slow or whatever. Just the fact to share that you think it's quite long to do it. It's comfort, I'd say. So, or if I'm slower, then I can start to try and understand why I'm slower or what I do that takes longer. So I thought that document could be useful to everyone and could be shared because, as I said, I had no experience in translation. So in there I've put the website Lingui, for example, that I use a lot because I find it provides me with translations or tips, and then I can pick the translation that I feel is best for some words or some expressions. So there is this tip, and then there are other things I've put in, like simple things, and also some things from the exchange we had with one of the guy in China, I think.
Okay. So where would be the most useful place for people for storing a document like this? Would it be in just the general drive for translators that everybody could add to? Because right now I think you have it in the French folder, is that right?
Yes.
And maybe what we do is we move it up a level to the root folder.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. If people find they want to do that.
Well, I I was imagining that there would need to be some sort of document like this that applied to all languages. I just was waiting for somebody to say, because I didn't want to be the one steering, because it's supposed to be self-organizing teams, and but I thought, great. So this is in line with what I thought would be needed for the teams, and I don't know. What do you guys, Derek and Jürgen? What do you guys? Would that be useful for you? I mean, you're the only other language team we can ask, so.
I think what we talked about is that we should have, let's say, specific questions for a certain language. This is that what we started with, and what we try to manage in our team. But there should also be a kind of a document or a kind of a folder or wiki where we should describe or propose or just document ideas that we have that help the other teams, or that help us or everybody who's translating. So this is a good idea and a good start to put a document in this kind of folder. It's very easy. You don't have to set up a wiki or something like that.
What kind of document is it, Cecile? Is it just a Google Doc, or?
It's a Google Doc, yes.
Great. That seems a little.
But for example, it doesn't talk at all about synchronization, just the way you do in Germany. So that would be something we could add. I talk about glossary, so that's something. I think a glossary should, if we have a glossary, we shouldn't have one per country. I think we should have the same glossary. It's just the way we translate the stuff that is going to be different. But the reference words are probably the same across countries. So why have a glossary in each country? I mean, at least the list of English terms could be common to all.
Mm-hmm.
This is right, but I think at the end we are talking about translations, and what I found out is really that it's an English term that you're going to translate, and I bet it's very you have very different possibilities to translate it in French and very different ones in Germany, and it's sometimes very very hard to decide what's the real pronunciation, what's the real idea behind it.
We could also, when we have, you mentioned this before, which was what is the intent behind some of the words and some of the definitions. If we have enough of these questions built up, we could also organize a hangout with Jürgen where we talk about some of these specific terms, and he can just say what his intent and the feeling is behind the word. That would be great to do. I'm sure he would enjoy that as well.
Yeah.
So, but that would, I don't think it's a bad idea to start a central glossary and just see what ends up there. It doesn't mean that every team has to define every word. It could just be a central place for people to check each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't want to say it doesn't make sense. But I think at the end, it's much more important to have it on the certain language area.
Yeah, there's a gray area between what's language specific and what's universally applicable. Yeah.
But I think this idea that you just raised is a very good idea. So I think we need, that's what I just said, we need a kind of a way to address Jürgen to find out what specific terms are used for. Because it was very very interesting for me, because this year I met him in Munich, and I told him about my problems to translate the moving motivators in the right direction, because there are some words like mastership where we don't have a real good word in Germany, and I always struggled with translating that. And at the end, he told me that one way he chose the names for the chamfrog words is at the end that he put words in a row that expressed that actually what kind of synonyms, what he meant, and then he tried to find out a word to find this acronym and to find chamfrogs, and this at the end led him to the real word for this kind of acronym. So it's not the real necessary translation for that, to find that. You have to have in mind that it's the original way was to find this kind of acronym.
Right, so there's some wiggle room in the definition of the word, for instance, which is good to know.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's how many of these terms or how much confusion, I mean, is there enough wording that it would be worth a hangout with Jürgen now?
On the spot, no, I don't
No.
think so. But there's lots of terms where we don't have a one-to-one match in German. For example, merit. So there is not a translation to a German word that makes or that expresses the same thing as merit.
Yeah.
And so there are several options, and it might be helpful to have a discussion not only within the German team, but also with Jürgen at one point in time to have kind of his input on what he would suggest or what he would prefer.
By the way, one discussion that we had in our German team was what kind of terms should we translate, or what kind of things should we just leave as they are, like merit money. Is this a kind of a brand? Is it a kind of a tool? Should we leave it as it is, or should we really try to translate it?
Right, because there's a certain translation, like merit money, there's a poetic nature to it because it's merit money. So there's sort of a poetry to it. So even if you translate it, you're not translating the poetic nature of some of these terms. So yes, I can see where that would get quickly.
And Jürgen is also he's playing with words. Yeah, this kind of misled, and so on. That in the introduction, there's one section, and you also have the problem how to translate that, because you don't want to make it too artificial to translate it.
Right.
That's what we talked about. For example, should we leave the tool names or the workout names as they are? Should we translate personal maps into a German translation, or should we leave it as it is? And I think this is a very interesting discussion that we will have.
It's just like the Scrum terminology, for example. Most of the Scrum terminology is not translated in France.
Yeah.
That's the same in Germany, yeah.
Or I should say most of it wasn't translated, and then some companies started to translate it. So some of the terminology starts to be used in both languages now.
Yeah, but this is actually a good analogy.
I have the same issues anyways.
Go ahead, Dirk. Sorry, good timing, huh?
Yeah. No, but I mean, this is exactly one point where we struggle. Moving motivators, that is kind of a brand, and I would not suggest translating it to German, because when people now, and even if they read the German book and we translate all these terms, they won't or they won't attach to, for example, if they visit management30.com, everything would be different. And I don't know Jürgen's intention on this. So Management 3.0 definitely is a brand that he establishes, but how much of the games and the practices are sort of within the brand concept, or really just practices that can be named whatever and are not key part of this core brand, core universe, whatever.
I would really suggest, and I would really think that having these kind of workouts, they should be kind of linked to Management 3.0 as a kind of a framework for this practice framework for new kind of management.
Oh yeah, there's a good point. You sent the email, Jürgen, that the book was renamed.
Yeah, that's right.
I would be very interested in getting to know why the book was renamed, because I really enjoyed management being part of the title.
Yeah,
what
that's
was
the same with me. I also I think I wrote it to you in the mail. Yeah, I was really kind of disappointed, I would say, but we can tell. I will be in Stockholm tomorrow and Thursday, so it would be very interesting to ask Jürgen about that.
I'm looking up the email in which he explained it to me so that I can see exactly what it was. I think very generally what it was is people were confusing the name of the book with the brand. And so
I can understand that.
People are writing to him all the time saying, hey, I read Management 3.0, and he has no idea if they're talking about the first book or the new book, or if they're, it would just, or if they're referring to a training course. So that was the main reason that he renamed it. But yeah, of course, ask him at the gathering, and I'll try to find the email. But there was some confusion there. Okay.
So, for example, what Dirk just said, there are many expressions for a certain term in English term. We have also the other way around. We have, for example, responsibility, accountability. In Germany, we have just one word for these two terms, and this is a very important differentiation that Jürgen has in his book to differentiate between I'm accountable and responsible. So this is also very interesting. I think we have to address.
Yeah.
Right, in certain languages, those words don't exist, or you have one word for what we in English have for two words, and
vice versa.
And vice versa, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so there's global things. So has the French team, so I guess the French team hasn't decided anything, but Cecile, when you're translating, what was your first instinct in terms of translating some of these names, or are you just putting them all together in a glossary? How are you dealing with it?
Well, I picked the introduction as the first chapter to translate, so actually I haven't had that problem yet. In terms of all the trademarks that the German team is talking about, I haven't had that problem yet. And I think there is a trade-off, because if you keep it as a trademark, I think for some people they may just not understand what's behind those things because they don't know the language. So I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I have to see which case-by-case basis maybe, or I don't know. At this stage, I don't know. I'll probably listen to the others and their experience and see.
Clearly, this is going to come up in every language, though. So what I'm going to do with this conversation, I'm recording it and I'll make it so that it's an unlisted video, and only the people with the link can see it, because the other translators were interested in this. But what I'll also do is transcribe the questions that have come up and sort of the actions we've decided to take, like putting this main document in the root directory for everybody to start asking questions, or just to document like, hey, it's taking me an hour per page. I mean, I think that's really valuable information. It sets expectations, and it lets people know that they're normal, like it's taking everybody an hour per page about, or, that's really good information to have. And then these other questions that come up, I mean, these would be great for Jürgen to address. And when there's too many, then we just have a hangout with Jürgen to explain himself. Mm-hmm. So that's the plan for this conversation.
There was one more thing. On the when I translate, I do a first cut, and then I keep some stuff highlighted, because when I hesitate in terms of translation, sometimes I hesitate because I need to do some research and I don't want to take the time right now, or sometimes I hesitate because it sounds like it's a reference word, and I know that once it's translated, we will want to keep that same translation throughout the book. So, and a couple of times I also, like, I have one instance about a question I had to ask Jürgen as well. It's like he's talking in the book, he's talking about his hometown in the introduction, and hometown can be home like right now, or home where you were born. And in French, it's going to be translated differently. So I need to have the information to be able to make the translation. And I guess it's the same. It's a different instance of what Jürgen was describing earlier on about the reason for naming something. Or
what about if he could set up a kind of a Trello board for Jürgen? So if somebody comes up with this kind of question, you would have a kind of either a Trello board or a Google Doc Excel thing where you put in the question and what would we think about it? What we and define the question, and Jürgen can go in and ask them, and it's documented and it's there. Might be a possibility.
Yeah, very good idea. I was thinking about this same idea a couple of minutes before, and I would prefer Trello actually.
Yeah, because then we can say, okay, we have something still in discussion, we have something done, finalized, and
then once it's finalized, it can be documented in the main wiki.
Yeah, that's right. And another idea I have got, because Cecile mentioned that she's translating the introduction section. That's the same I'm doing at the moment. So it would be very interesting to have a kind of list of who's translating what kind of section of the document in the different languages. So we might exchange ourselves in terms of how did you translate, for example, this section and so on.
Good point.
A role-based sort of roster.
Yeah, we have in our section we have an Excel sheet or a Google Doc where we have the different chapters and we have names behind it, and also the number of pages that this kind of, how long this kind of section is, to get an idea how different they are and so on. We could use that as a basis, and we could have a different column for this is the Spanish, this is French, this is German, and so everybody knows who's working at the moment on what kind of chapter.
I love the idea. And also you could just, in people's contact information, just a list of names and emails, so you can quickly, or Skype, or however somebody prefers to be contacted.
Yeah. And then I would come to another idea that the German team has, is in terms of seeing whose team is making what kind of progress might motivate others.
Totally.
A competition.
A competition. I love it.
Kind of a gaming stuff.
I think it's awesome. I'm totally happy to help facilitate that. Yeah, in fact, I will help facilitate that. So when we have this spreadsheet, maybe we can have chapter 1 being translated by so-and-so, expected, or is it done? What percentage complete is it? Or, we could do some sort of estimation. It doesn't have to be crazy, technical, agile, Scrum, anything. It can just be a thermometer that rises or something.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't make it too technical, so that we have this kind of percentage complete. I usually want to have, because it's percentage complete in kind of the first initial draft, and then then the work starts in terms of getting the things really done.
Yeah. Plus, it should be fun and not this big management thing. So yeah, we'll figure out a way to keep it lightweight and fun, and still somewhat accurate.
Well, if you wanna write a percentage complete, I think you have to have a definition of done.
Yeah, see, we quickly fall into this trap, and so
that's right.
We'll figure something out. We'll start with a spreadsheet, and people will fill it in, and I'm sure there'll be some really fun, wacky ideas along the way.
By the way, this kind of definition of done is really a thing that we should put in the central document. Because really, what is done? Does it has to be kind of there has to be a kind of a review? What is really? We finished it.
Well, do you guys have your review process in place? Like, what happens, Jürgen, when you finish the introduction? Where does it go?
I think we agreed. I think, Dirk, that's the same that you understood. We agreed that we will. Everybody is preparing a draft, and then we put it for the others to review. But we haven't decided yet how many have to review that, and maybe one is enough, or maybe I think at the end I still have the idea that we might have to meet one or 2 days to really finish up everything at the end, and to find out to get the things smooth and done, and the final things done, because this remote working is it's working for now because everybody has its thing. But at the end, if you want to finalize and finish that, you have to come together and you have to communicate very intense.
Yeah, I agree. For the time being, we organize around Trello, so whenever somebody has finished on some chapter in draft for or ready for review, we just push the card over, and whoever wants and has time to will then just do a review. So the default would be that one reviewer is enough, and it's upon the on the author to say, okay, these parts are maybe critical, and I would like to have two reviewers for this part, and then we will just split up the card or whatever, so it's not decided. Just make sure that one review at least, and two or more reviews, or even have a discussion on specific things if it sounds like that would be useful.
You could also enlist, I mean, there was a lot of people that volunteered, and not everybody got chosen for the language team. So it could also be that you use beta readers to help you in this respect, where you have outside people come in and review. You know, they can have access to the rules, or we could have a hangout where we explain to them, this is how it was done, this is the thinking behind it, we'd like you to review the translation, make sure it's consistent across chapters, or, you know, whatever. You have a pool of people that we can bring in for that.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think we can use it as Jürgen did with his version of the book. So he also sent it out to the news. We can also use the German community and send those versions out and ask for review. This might also be a heck of work to get all the feedback kind of let's say addressed. I don't know, but maybe it's worthwhile. I don't know.
Yeah, we can at least put out the idea and see what the other teams are doing. After I write this up for tomorrow, we can see if whatever, you know, what other people will chime in with. Doesn't have to be solved tonight. Okay.
By the way, Lisette, are you in Stockholm or you stay away?
No, I won't be in Stockholm.
Okay.
Sadly.
Cecile, what about you?
Sorry?
Will you be in Stockholm, Cecile?
In Stockholm, no.
No. Okay.
There's a Cecile, I don't think, is a facilitator.
No, I'm not. So I don't know what the event is. Yeah.
Okay. No.
It's just it's a Management 3.0 facilitators gathering. It happens once every 6 months, where all the facilitators come together and discuss the courseware and what they're struggling with, and ideas and things for improvement, so on. So.
Yeah. No, I'm not part of that team. Yeah.
All right. Any other issues or challenges or things that people wanted to bring up while we're... Too bad we don't have two more languages, but I think a lot of great issues came up tonight, actually, already, just with us. And we've got some good places to start in terms of questions to ask Jürgen, maybe setting up a global Trello board, putting the global document. I'll write up the action items that we came up with tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
And the global schedule and getting, I mean, there's quite a number of things that we can start with. So, but I think it would also be good to have more of these hangouts between languages, and maybe scheduling like once a month, scheduling a hangout, just for anybody who wants to join, just to discuss any issues that are coming up. Maybe that's a good thing, because I'd like more people to participate.
Yeah, once we have this Trello board with questions that maybe we want to address to Jürgen or to the community, that could also serve as the agenda for Hangouts.
Great idea. Great idea. Let's do that. I can set that up tomorrow.
Okay.
And we'll just start there and just invite people. And if it changes, it changes. We'll massage it as we go. Okay.
Okay. So I'm just looking at the list that I made last week, but no, there's not more from my side that we should cover today. Anyone else?
No, thanks.
I'm okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
then
you.
Okay.
Enjoy your evenings, and I'll
too.
send out the link tomorrow with the notes.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.